Hello and welcome. I am delighted this morning to have you guys with me, Jean-François Ophir. Welcome, guys. We're going to talk about Elfie this morning. So it's a little bit different than some of the other podcasts, and I've got a lot of conversation and stats and data to hear about from a health perspective, digital health, but also medications and chronic diseases. So we've got a very complex but really rewarding conversation to have happen. So I'm excited. So we're going to start off first, as we always do. I want you guys to introduce yourselves and connect the dots for me from where you started to where you are today, what's brought you on your journey, and likewise from a health perspective, if you're sporty, I want to hear about it. So maybe we'll start with you, Jean-François. Do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Pleasure to be here on your podcast, Grace. Jean-François JF started my career at Microsoft in France and at Gartner in the UK and in South Africa, where I worked for many years. And before joining Samsung in Korea in the German office, there I work in digital imaging in the US and a lot of pretty exciting project in consumer electronics. So much so that I became the head of digital for Samsung in Southeast Asia Pacific. At that time, I was building the e-commerce for Samsung from zero to $1 billion channel for the company. And during these days where I discovered and learned a lot, I met Ophir, who was already a successful entrepreneur. We became friends, very close friends. I always told him that I wish I could have been an entrepreneur with him and learn with him and from him. And one day he called me and told me he was selling his company. And the window was open, made the idea, bring back the conversation on should we start something together? And an opportunity presented itself in the digital health space, and the rest, as they say, is history. But I'll pass the mic over to Ophir, who can give you a bit more background on the genesis of Elfie in particular.
Love it, love it. Ophir, welcome.
Thank you. So, a bit about me. So originally from Israel, I studied engineering in Brussels. I started my career in advertising, and I was fortunate in my career to work with companies like Microsoft, McKinsey, but most notably, I started my first company in '99. I led a CEO for 21 years. I had more than 700 people in the company, 9 offices around the world. Quite an exciting ride. And I guess that when the day came to exit the company, I think I did what a lot of guys do. I went to do a checkup when they exit, and that day I was diagnosed with a couple of chronic conditions.
Ah,
Less exciting news, less exciting news. And I think that very selfishly, I downloaded all the apps that I guess people like me are supposed to use, obviously mostly Americans. I had them all on my phone. And to your point, because I like to believe that I'm somewhat healthy, I had on my phone a nutrition app, I had a sleep app, I had a workout app, then I had an app for condition A, and then I have an app for condition B. And I was like, okay, this is clearly not great, right? So indeed, I was fortunate to have Jean-François as a friend, get him a call. I said, okay, would you like for the second part of our life to do something else than pushing Coca-Cola bottles? He kindly agreed. And that was the genesis of Elfie, where we decided to do something better.
brilliant. Thank you, guys. And I appreciate you're bringing in from France, South Africa. You guys are bringing in today from Vietnam. So we have a lot of countries mapped to that and the chronic condition space, which is interesting, Ophir, because yeah, for those that's not watching on video, you're both very healthy looking gentlemen. So talk us through Alfie then. What is it? Because it started, as you said, from a need that you saw, multiple apps, and I think everyone listening can appreciate we all have a complement of apps for different lifestyle factors and different conditions. So what is Elfie? Why is it different?
Sure. So I think, look, when Jeff and I sat down and we basically got educated on the pandemic that are chronic conditions, right? I mean, the numbers are staggering. There was a McKinsey publication that said that 70% of deaths in the world are directly or indirectly connected to a chronic condition. That just gives you an idea of the scale. So we really dug into, what would it take to actually have impact, right? And so there were a few key conclusions, that came to mind. The first one was that if there was ever an industry where a super app makes sense, because of course there are many cases where that's a pretty terrible idea, it would be health. Because at the end of the day, right, to be able to take control of your health, it's not complicated. You need your data, right? You need your data. And today, like in my personal example, your data is scattered all over the place. So until the day that you have a single app that has all your health verticals, right, all your fundamental lifestyle, KPIs, plus all your chronic conditions inside the same space, you can't be in control. You can't have an overview of what's actually happening with you. You can't actually even have the right diagnostics going forward, right? So that was, we call it Spotifying the health industry, right? It's kind of like when Spotify went to the music labels and they told them, look, guys, people don't really like to go on 10 different places to listen to their music, right? So we kind of looked at it the same way, except that in our case, we kind of understood that in our story, the music labels are actually the big pharma companies. Because the second observation that we made is that if we wanted to go for global social impact, it had to be free, right? It has to be free. Nobody wants to pay to be reminded that they're sick, right? So for us to be free, we needed to find people who had a big interest in a certain type of data we would be able to collect, right? So obviously, as you talk about having a pretty exhaustive solution, the most exhaustive solution that's on the market today, you would need to have access for each condition to the biggest experts, right? There's no way a single company could say, I have the expert in every condition in the world in my company, right? However, these great experts, they work today for the big pharmas. So our vision was go to big pharma, convince them to do something that they've never done, which is actually partner on the same app, right? Put all their conditions on the same application and give us the means and the financing to actually put on the market a free solution, right? Where people would find anything that are trying to track so they can have a single view of whatever's happening with them. And then the third, very big fundamental of Elfie was that we understood that it needed to be heavily gamified. Because one thing that people really kind of miss is that, especially when you talk about chronic condition, the definition of success is literally that nothing happened, right? And nothing is not a super exciting outcome, right? So we understood that also, and if you're really cold about it, health is quite a boring topic most of the time because, like I said, nothing much happens. The only people that really care are the super healthy and the super sick. And everybody in the middle is kind of like, whatever, I'll deal with it when it happens, right? So you need to create that externality. And we were lucky, of course, with the massive experience that Jeff had. At Samsung, I had the chance of working some pretty big brands on the same topic. And so we put that expertise together, followed some very fancy frameworks when it comes to nudging and encouraging and gamification. We put it all together. And these are really our three tenets. And I get the last, which was obviously fundamental, was that we really believe in the necessity of creating a brand that is trusted. And the trust that we put forward is that our brand will be medically verified, through the partnership that we have with Big Pharma, publications, RCTs, RWEs, all of the above. And also a brand that promises you that we will never sell your personal data. Really, really important. So really the Switzerland of apps, right? So in a sense, we're sponsored by Big Pharma to put on the market the best health app in the world. And that's a very exciting mission.
So I'm going to pick up on a few things you mentioned there before we talk a little bit more about the product. So first off, I'm going to use Apple Music versus Spotify because obviously I'm part of the Apple cult previously. But I love the fact that you point us all in one place. And the inequity is a huge factor here that I'm very passionate about because, I was at Apple when Steve Jobs got sick and he was quite adamant of making Apple part of the healthcare journey because he was like, I have loads of money and I still can't get access to the care that I need. So the inequities in healthcare have always been well documented. So I do love the fact that this is catering for a population to get easy access, but also being part of the solution. Because to your point here, Big Pharma, yes, we want medications to be designed for us. And I'll come back to the whole inequity of access to medications and obviously the imbalance in studies as well in a moment. But we want to make sure that people who haven't got the means for a lot of healthcare also have access to healthcare and are able to leverage that data in order to be part of the solution for the future. Because to your point, we have a very unique situation in the last few years where we have loads of data. Like we have more devices and sensors now than ever before. But yes, the data being disparate is not helpful to us as individuals, especially as we're more nuanced and we're thinking, as you have yourself, multiple conditions, multiple factors. And we will come back to the moment about menopause and fertility and all that, because we have so much nuances. We have to do better. The future is definitely data driven. The future is absolutely personalized and it's absolutely nuanced. So yeah, we cannot use that data enough. So yes, it's exciting. So I'm looking forward. And I love the fact that you said super app, because you're right. Nothing's worth having 10 different places to put some data. No one's going to do it. It's too complicated. It needs to be seamless. It needs to be easy. And rewarding me for it is just an extra bonus on top. So I love it. Jean-Francois, tell me more about the Elfie, because you come a background, obviously, of Microsoft, Samsung, some big names here. Give us some more of the context of the product, of what it actually does. And likewise, just the different elements here. We have research, we have care, we have works. Give us a little bit of context there. What is the product?
Sure. Great question. As Sophia was mentioning, the problem of chronic disease today is not that much medical, but behavioral. That's what we got educated from the pharma industry and the doctors who told us we know how to solve the problem. We just have three major obstacles that are beyond the world of medical. They are lifestyle, obesity, lack of physical activity. There's a few things like that. You have awareness. People are diagnosed too late. Many of these diseases, you don't feel them. So there's a problem of awareness, becoming aware that you have a disease, then they can do their job. And there is adherence. It's a big word, but the word adherence, you might not be familiar with it, but in the health and the medical world, it's a patient doing what the doctor told them to do. In disease like diabetes, within 3 months, people that are on insulin, half of them no longer take their insulin treatment. This is the lack of adherence. Of course, you can do as much R&D as you want. If the people don't do what the doctor tells them to do, you're not going to get any impact. So that's where we come in, and that's where the product comes in. How can you modify behavior at scale from the rich cities of the most developed countries in the world to the rural areas inside the most developing or humble nations? Digital. And the world of Elfie is to modify behaviors. So when you look at what is Elfie as a product, it is a behavioral modification product that brings awareness on whatever is your health journey. Half of our users are in perfect health, or at least so they say, and they are motivated on their health objective that might be usually around sleep management, fitness activity, weight control. And a bit later this year, we will be going into women's health and men's health on the topic that is the first topics health related that people pay a lot of attention to. And on the top of that, when these programs are sitting inside the Elfie application, they become very useful when you activate the program focusing on blood pressure, focusing on blood sugar, focusing on gut health, and so on and so forth. There's many of these applications that are specialized in one disease area. They don't have all the wellness and all the lifestyle factors to make sense of evolution of a vital. Let me give you an example. Many applications follows diabetes patient. The biggest metric that everyone knows about is the blood glucose. It goes up, it goes down. Many of these apps have great graphs. So the first thing you think about is a great diabetes app should have a very nice graph. You interview the patients or the users, they say, I don't care about the graph. I want to know why it happened and what I'm going to do about it, the analysis. And the analysis that you can get to is, for instance, someone taking a treatment. I'll take an example of diabetes because many people that are listening to the podcast will know that disease. I'm not going to go into very sophisticated medical area. If you don't sleep properly and you take your injection of insulin in the morning, your body will be less sensitive to insulin. So the same treatment will no longer work, not because of the treatment, but because of your sleep. The type of food you eat will also have an impact based on your body, on its ability to decompose the nutrients and generate or not sugar. So looking at all these little activities to give a rationale on why your vital is moving in a direction and what you can do as a patient to be the owner and the actor of your health journey. That's what we do as a product, to bring a holistic vision, to avoid summarizing you to your disease, but to summarize you to your health, to turn the negativity of disease management into a positivity of health management.
I love it. And call out there for me a little bit, because diabetes is one of those conditions as well. Obviously, it's the most common condition, possibly the one of the most common conditions in the world, right? And I know the one that's most costly to healthcare providers, insurers, and individuals, because obviously it impacts an awful lot of our personal lives. But if we're looking at the research, and I was just getting some stats this morning, we have a massive over-indication on females not being represented in research. So we need a call to action of we all need to participate in research, and we all need to be actively involved in research. And it's only since 1994, this is ridiculous to me, it's only since 1994 is it mandated that women are even included in research. So my call to action to all of my female listeners is that we have to step up. We have to share our data in order for medications and healthcare to be actually designed for us. And that's not just in diabetes, but in everything else. I mean, one of the stats was that 51% of patients in oncology are female, but only less than 40% of participants in the studies are female. So we have to do an awful lot more.
And that is, and again, thanks for bringing this. We got educated as well on this problem. Elfie and I, as you heard from our background, don't have a PhD in medical research. We, if anything, we have a life experience PhD in building consumer products that generates engagement. That's what we bring to the system. A bit more than 54%, correct me if I'm wrong, about our users are female. Of our users are also coming from areas that are very far from the nearest hospital. There is a misrepresentation of, I would not even say minorities, because of course women are equal in terms of number of population in the world, but of people that have a lack of access to the R&D studies, whether they are female, they could be economic minorities, they could be ethnic minorities, they could be just countries that are very far, and they might have a genome that is very different from the genome of Americans or Europeans, where many of the studies are done. With these users that we have on the Elfie platforms, many academic research organizations, and 8 of them in particular, have signed a partnership with Elfie to create Elfie Research, a platform to recruit patients into studies. And keep them into the study. So the point that you highlighted is correct. And we have been fortunate to have been educated that the platform we were building on managing, preventing the biggest diseases or biggest cause of death in the world can also be used for R&D, patient recruitment, and avoiding these type of selection bias that exists in studies today.
If I may, I think that might be a good segue into maybe clarifying a little bit the 3 layers, that exist in the product of Elfie.
Please.
Because exactly as you said, right? So at the core, right, the base of our pyramid is the big social impact projects that we do with Big Pharma, right? Where we get sponsorship to give this free application to the world, right? At the top is what GF just said, right? We're going to use all that data to power the biggest academic research organizations in the world, right? Through our partnership that started with Imperial and grew through all these wonderful other big universities. And this will allow us to address exactly your point, right? To bring more balance, to the type of publications, RWEs, RCTs that are going out on the market. But the middle layer is super interesting. Jeff and I are pretty convinced that essentially for the last, call it 10, 15 years, Big Pharma and the insurance companies have been trying to develop essentially the same app. Because again, the problem is exactly the same, right? Today, if you will, overall in countries where premiums are significant, practically 60% of it is directly and indirectly correlated to chronic conditions, right? And so today, again, you have this hyper verticalization, right, of all these solutions. You have great solutions for food and great solutions for diabetes and great solution for this. But at the end of the day, like anything, I have to send you to 20 different doors. I'll lose you eventually, right? And what Elfie was able to do at the center of it is what we call Elfie Works, right, which is a solution that we provide, to insurance companies or big employers, because building on this massive foundation, right, where we get all this insight, all this expertise from Big Pharma, we were able to build what we believe to be the most advanced solution, right, to empower employees and insurees of big insurance companies, right, to optimize their health. And the cool thing about it is because as a company, from, call it a business strategy perspective, we are already break even, right? With the first layer of our company. This allows us to be not only super exhaustive and more exhaustive than any other app out there, it allows us to be extremely aggressive, right? On the price point, where our focus is really be on delivering value, right? And really focusing on the impact, on the science, on the publication, and with a really exciting roadmap, where to your point, we continuously, as we keep adding pharmas, we keep adding more and more and more conditions as we go along. And so this basically gives you the vision, if you will, of what we're trying to build at Elfie from a product perspective.
I love that. Tease a little bit for me there in relation to the data up there, because people listening are going to go, I don't want my data to be sold to big pharma, right? I think we all think that now, saying that our data is being used everywhere. And let's be fair, anyone who's online in any description, your data is being used, right? So let's be realistic about that. But give us that little bit of, is my personal data going back to pharma in some shape or form? Give me just the, again, let's reassure people in relation to the personalization and the data piece.
Right. A big, massive no. I'll say the no, and then I'll pass it on to my dear co-founder who's worked on it so hard, so he deserves to answer this.
We work on that, and I am more legally responsible as well as the guardian of that integrity in the company and everything we do. So first thing first, let's start with the pharma industry. They actually don't want and don't care about individual data. It has no value, zero. What they want is statistics, because one isolated case has zero scientific interest at all. So they want a lot of data that is anonymized and statistically prepared to understand where are the problems, what type of medication needs to be invented. They need statistics. They absolutely don't want to know the case of grace. They want to know the cases of graces around the planet that has statistical significance. So that is very clear. Anyone that starts understanding about how research and science works, understand that individual identifiable data has no value and would actually put them in so much trouble that they really, really want to make sure that we anonymize everything we do. So clear for the pharmaceutical world. In the case of the insurance world, the world that we do there is we are helping their population statistically to reduce risk. Because for them, when they insure a pool of risk. And they want to know that the pool of risk that they are assessing is getting better. Mm-hmm. The job that we do there is we don't help them underwrite an individual. Never. We don't do. We won't do. It has no statistical value at the work that we do. What they want to know is they have a pool of already existing insured policyholders. So that's too late in a sense for them. Now they have to find a way to get them healthier. That's where we come in. And they are capable of assessing the risk reduction by looking at the claim year on year. That's the job that we do. So in a nutshell, the data that we have has no value at an individual level, would be of very poor taste, and again, no value should we were to give it individually. So that's why we don't give it, we don't sell it, we have no economic value of doing so. At the end of the day, if there is no economic value, follow the money. If there is no value, there is no
follow the money. I love it. And you're right. I mean, this is the beauty of the association of my data is being sold. And we're very conscious. I know we're all, in the European space, GDPR is tight, and we like that. I think that's great. But thank you for clarifying that, because I think that is always a concern about people going, I don't want to share my data. But let's be realistic. We actually need, and again, coming back from female health in particular, because I'm being biased a little bit, so apologies. We need to be better represented in medication development. We absolutely need to be better represented. And I say we, obviously women aren't one homogenous group, neither are men. So across the lifespan. So I'm going to check in first off. This is an application designed for adults. So it's everything from 18 plus, right? And we're saying, correct me if I'm wrong?
For the time being, we started with the 18 plus, but soon enough, we will start opening it to the teenagers and youngers because of two reasons. Because we have a lot of people that are below 18 and we need to take care of them and give them the right habits as early as possible. Fair enough, that's obvious. But a much more indirect and I would like to call it smart way is gentlemen in particular and gentle ladies don't care about their health in their 30s that much. about their own health. But as soon as they become fathers and mothers, suddenly
Right.
they become very careful about the health of their children. That's a good moment as well for us because they care about that young baby. They actually can start taking care of themselves a bit. So by opening the Elfie app, eventually it's going to be across the next 12 months to younger people. We will believe have two benefits: one, covering more population, and then bring more awareness and more reason for younger adults to care.
That's fantastic. As I appreciate as well, we're also diagnosing type 2 diabetes much earlier as well. So likewise, medications are kicking in earlier. So again, you need to have that data to be able to get those medications to be effective for different ages and obviously different hormonal levels across the ages. This is the beautiful part of this for me as well. Like we're heading into a time where we have more awareness of health than ever. I think we've more access to information, but we haven't, as I said, got that personalization really right yet. So that data is going to be critical for that. So thank you for sharing that.
And not only
It's beautiful.
not only for sick, we don't need to. You don't have to be sick to be healthy. If you allow me the on the name,
this is a good point.
you have to get a fun way, please, a fun way to get the youngsters, the teenagers, when they start being able to make food decisions. They go to school, they have a bit of pocket money, they can decide on their first food. I see it in Singapore, that's the way it happens. The children got money and they can choose. You need to give them the tools. Not every education system provide dietitians to educate the children. But there is a lot of marketing on either TV or on smartphones about super exciting food. And they are not the plain tomato salad. They are not the plain recipe. They are boring. They're too boring, these recipes. They get advertised and educated on poor lifestyles. We would like to play our part to avoid disease to kick in.
If I may, do you mind? I'd like to refer a second on your point, about the difference in the genders. Because, actually one thing that's very interesting to me, women, in a sense, have a tremendous advantage, over men when it comes to health, right? Because actually women from a young age, right, because they track their cycles, because eventually they'll have, their pregnancy, they'll track it, the postpartum, they'll track it, the menopause, they'll track it. They actually have health tracking and symptom tracking ingrained into them like fairly early on, right? And men, if you compare, not as smart, right? We are much more reactive, right? Where women are much more proactive, right? Typically. And I think that's a fascinating difference. And today, to the point, as we talk about men and women and the disparities, and also as we bring to, a younger audience, the really important thing, for us is to realize that in today's attention economy, if you will, where everything needs to be somewhat entertaining, right? We fit straight into that because we recognize that at some point, what's going to create the interest, of a man, what's going to create the interest, of a woman, it's going to be vastly different. And so it's so important for us, in our strategy as we built, our rules of our education, our gamification, and all the above. It really has to bring them together in a place where everybody finds something that keeps it exciting and, I dare say, entertaining, right, as part of their health management.
That's a really good point. And to your point, yeah, we're more aware early on because we have to be, and life forces us to have that tracking ability, but we've never had good tools. This is the nice thing about this as well, is a better tool to enable to track it, but also to see all the side effects, impacts, symptoms, and so on. And like you mentioned, 100%. Menopause there. This is like walking into, and I'm of that age where it's coming down the track and it's like walking into a black wall. I've no idea what to expect. It's absolutely scandalous that we're in 2025. I'm educated. I'm access to data, access to digital, and I have no idea what I'm heading into because we haven't had the data. We haven't had the ability to track, and it's phenomenal. So, and this is one of the things actually I do love about the Elfie app because I was looking at symptoms. The 67, right? That's qualified currently as menopausal tracking symptoms, and I'm like, who the hell is going to track 67 symptoms? But the beauty of it is some of them are so nuanced. I appreciate you can add your symptom. Like you add the symptom, whatever it is that you think it could be a symptom, add it, track it, and then, we can figure out later on. Because to your point, 67 is going to increase to something else at some point, and it could be related to an actual condition, or it could be menopause, it could be temporary. We don't know. It's like this ridiculous aspect of half the population are literally going flying blind. So yes, that's good. Good point. We have a reason to track. We just have never done it properly, and then we've never done it, I think, across the ages as well. So the beauty here is I can engage with Elfie from a very young age, from the teenage years, to come, or at least from 18, right through to whenever, right through to my later years, as they call it, from healthy aging.
Okay.
The education bit is huge because I'm enjoying the fact that you're rewarding me for watching a video or reading an article or taking a quiz. It's quite simple, actually. And actually, the content is probably the shortest content, but I'm always walking away going, I really like this snippet of information that I'm able to get coins rewarded for. Talk me through a bit of the gamification, because it is enjoyable. It is short, snappy, sweet, and I'm learning the whole time. And again, I'm coming from the angle of I don't need to be thinking about angina, but likewise, I've written an article. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and I get rewarded for it. So give me through the gamification. It's a huge factor here.
Sure.
Whichever one of you wants to go first.
Of course. Grace, it's of course it's a key. It's a key. We did not invent gamification, by the way,
Right.
but it has been always applied in a more marketing context. People will discover it in loyalty programs that everyone is aware of it. What we try to employ is gamification without having anything else to sell to you than you being motivated to take care of yourself. So there we look at great example. Good examples that exist in that industry. Let me start with an obvious one. You started talking about content. Think about Duolingo. Duolingo teaches you a language, and they are pretty good, simple though, at snippets of bits of content to progressively, bit by bit, get you more fluent in the language of your choice. The way we think about it is, in terms of content in Elfie, is how can you create the Duolingo of health and wellness? That's on one aspect. When you look at then the bigger picture on monitoring your vitals, taking care of your treatment, medication if you have any, we look at it as a way to reward you for self-monitoring. And let's be very precise here what that means. It means that whenever you add a vital, you'll be rewarded for adding a vital, not what the vital value is. We don't reward outcome. We reward monitoring, reward the behavior of taking care of you, not whether or not you have been successful, because eventually you will be successful. We reward steps, we reward sleep. Those are the things you control. You can decide to go for a walk until a certain age, at least. You can decide to go to bed early and to wake up at a good time. That is within your control. So we would reward that. But anything that is about monitoring your vitals, and if you have a treatment, we will reward you for declaring whether you took it or you skipped. We reward also the honesty of telling the truth. But at the end of the day, the data will only make sense if it is accurate data, not if it is an embellished version of yourself. So that's a very important part. And then fundamentally as well around it, if you have 0 disease in Elfie, or if you have 20, the number of points you can earn is the same. Yeah. So we gamified and split the amount of coins according to the number of actions that you have to take. And if you have only a few things to do, we reward you these things. If you have many things, we split it across. Because behind competition, there is a lot of ethical aspects that are at the core of what we do. That's it.
If I may, Grace, I just want to add one last thing, and then I apologize. I need to jump from my next call. But I think you made a really interesting point in the beginning. You're right. Today we live in a world where we have a plethora of data, and you don't even know what to do with it anymore. And the challenge is even larger when the data is cut into a bunch of pieces. I think that we are absolutely blessed to have started this company at the age of AI, right? And I think that today, the ability of just motivating people to put the data in the same place and leveraging the unbelievable power of AI these days helps people make sense of all that data, right? And help them understand what is happening, or at least ask the right questions when they go, and visit their physician. So I think this is an unbelievable time, to put this proposition forward, to everyone. And we're very grateful to have the opportunity to bring this to market.
Love it. Thank you. And thank you, Ofer, as well, for joining us. I appreciate it's busy time. So go save the world.
I appreciate it. I'll try. Okay, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Merci.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Merci. Bye.
Tell me more about just the data point here, because to your point is I'm tracking my data. I'm tracking if I have a medication. I'm tracking if I have a symptom. I'm tracking if I take the medication. I'm tracking my sleep, whether I'm active or not. Some of it's seamless, some of it's me manually entering it, depending on the device that I have. If I have a medical care team, where can I get that data easily to that care team? Again, share with us a little bit about that data and the care team being able to follow up in order to help support me, my journey, whether it's an oncologist or a cardiologist, endocrinologist, or my GP.
At the times we speak right now, you have two ways to share your data. Share a report of the data, extracting it from Elfie, all users, and I'll come back in a few seconds about that point. Share your data, extract it, share it with a medical care team, or you can basically, whenever you're in a doctor visit, and we've seen that in a few clinics already, show your Elfie to your practitioner. This is the current level of support that we have created in Elfie. Why? Because in this case, the Elfie application remains a wellness application. For as soon as your data is immediately available to an healthcare professional to be part of a care journey, then the data becomes, and the application becomes, a medical device. So we have been very careful to keep the Elfie application as a wellness self-monitoring tool, but the data remains a full ownership and propriety of the user. This is something that I wanted to tell you about, because we've seen a lot of applications as well as healthcare organizations that keep the patient hostage by keeping the data of that individual on their system. We've seen that in a lot of private clinics that are using that as a way to keep you with them. But similarly, if you have your data on Apple Health, a great app, what happens if you are switching to an Android device? Or if you have your app, your favorite app on the cycle tracking with a few nutrition information, and now you want to switch into another nutrition app, who is forcing you to share this data? You cannot share it yourself, even if you want to. Many applications are keeping you hostage. So that's why at the core of Elfie, 80% of our users are Android, 20% are iOS. This is the reality of the world. Outside of the US, iOS, great operating system, but still a minority in the world. And when people need to switch, we need, as Elfie, to keep that platform open for the user to decide who should have access. Another device, another healthcare professional. Yeah. That's user is in their control. It is their data, not my data.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And I think what's nice there, as you mentioned, is the protection of that data, where obviously you're very GDPR compliant as well, and thinking of HIPAA and all of the regulations around the world. So it's important then, just to summarize a little bit, that the application is available to pretty much everybody, and we'll talk about countries and languages in a moment, if you don't mind, is available to everyone for free, ultimately, because care is about us being able to access the information as well as be able to share what's happening with our bodies throughout the lifespan and share it with the care team that we want to be able to engage with. So it's available. Insurers can get the anonymized data in order to better insure me and cover me, again, that personalization, and look at that risk factor for an organization, employer, and so on. My medical care team can look at that data as part of the care journey that I'm on, depending on whatever my health status is. And then you're looking at the research aspect as well here. So it's a very important factor that we have better data leading into more research, so we can better medications, better solutions for each individual nuance in a global basis. And especially for those that are not just, I say, the wealthy accessing healthcare. This is a very much designed around every person can get access, because you're making it free at the end for the end user. And ultimately, yes, pharma is getting anonymized data, since hence pharma is actually getting the most commercial out of this. They're the ones ultimately paying for us to be able to access this for free. So that's I love the business model. Well done, absolutely well done on the business model there. Give me a little bit there, just a reminder in terms of countries as well as languages, because I'm English and white. I'm in Ireland right now, so it's easy for me. But give me some of the languages as well, because I want to make sure that we're thinking that this is a global solution for global context, for global nuances as well.
Absolutely. So our partnership with pharma are worldwide, which means that we eventually will be available in every country that is legally allowed to be open into. At the time as we speak, I was just looking at the application. We are available, I think, in around 18 languages, French, Arabic, British, English, American English, Spanish, Filipino, which is also called Tagalog, 120 million people. It's a lot of people. And you need to speak the native language of the people deep in the countryside, because when it's about your health, you want to know in your mother tongue what's going on. It is not Facebook. It is not following a cool stuff online. It is something personal. You don't want the benefit of a doubt. You want to know. The Tagalog, Bahasa Indonesia, Italian, Bahasa Melayu, Malaysia, Turkish, Brazilian Portuguese, Vietnamese, Romanian, many type of Chinese. You have Mandarin from mainland China. You have a Mandarin from the island of Taiwan. You have also Cantonese. And then we'll keep adding. We also have Japanese inside the application. We will be preparing Romanian, German, and a few other Russians, and many, many different languages. Spanish, I think I said Spanish. If I did not, so the languages will be all covered because we need to speak the mother tongue of a user.
Yeah.
Not English. Even if they speak English, it's not enough. And then bit by bit, we're opening in each country. We do it. We could open, and I could immediately open it in every country in the world with one click from my computer. But the way we are launching in a country, we work with the medical authorities, the Doctors Association, to show them that we are not doing that against the doctor, but as a support. Many people that want to disrupt the industry go with a very condescending approach to whatever that is, that industry, whether it is in banking, in insurance, in taxi driving, and all of that. A very provocative attitude. We truly believe that that would be a very stupid idea in healthcare to try to say, I'm going to disrupt the doctor, I'm going to disrupt the healthcare system. It's like, no, you're going to be crushed like a little cockroach and you'll disappear immediately. Because truthfully, healthcare is and will always be done between a patient and a healthcare practitioner.
Right.
Our job is, when you're not facing a doctor, which is 99.9% of the time, is to be supporting you and support that relationship. So that's why whenever we arrive in a market, we go to the big medical association, explain to them why we're here, what we're going to do, how do we make money, how we are not disrupting the relationship between a patient and a doctor, one way or the other, not spamming the doctor, not contradicting the doctor. And then we release the app. It takes more time, but it's us showing that we respect doctors. We respect the real hard job they do. They are not very well paid in most countries in the world. And I'll give you a few numbers. In most countries in the world, a doctor makes less than a junior marketing person that is doing social media posts.
Wow.
In Vietnam, they make $400, $500 when they start their career. You would not find someone to do digital marketing for less than $800. That's a gentleman that has 10 years of studies, sacrificed night and days to be able to save life. So the minimum we owe these people, nurses and doctors, all that kind, is to show some respect whenever we arrive in their country, talking with and supporting their patient.
I love it. Well done. I mean, I'm loving the fact that it's so comprehensive, and as I said, it's so global, and the languages is a critical part, because I want to understand my health in my language. It is complex in terms of some of the terminology as well, so they don't all translate to every nationality or every language. That's important. Before we wrap up, so two things. You've got phenomenal career behind you. What are the lessons, like for people that are looking at you and listening, going, "This is amazing"? How did you get to this level of understanding of a very complex world that we live in today? What would be the lessons from your career for someone to go, I want to be Jean-François in a couple of years' time? They've come out of college and they're like, how do I do this in today's world? And how do I fast track it? What are the lessons?
First things first, and he's not on the call anymore. First, you have to find your best mate to create that journey, to embark on that journey. There are many very successful solo entrepreneurs, don't get me wrong, but for most people, it's a very lonely journey. It's full of hardship. It's full of doubt and constant rejection. You need to find someone to go through that journey, to see the glass half full over time, to be supporting each other. And when, if you allow me to say, the shit hit the fan, to regroup and keep fighting. That's going to happen for every startup. So you need to find for me, your fear is we're going to be celebrating our 10-year anniversary as friends.
Oh, wow.
Here in a few months. We already have planned the trip, and we are first and foremost, and I'm very grateful to have a friend and an older brother in my co-founder. So that's step number one. At least to me, that would be that.
Fantastic.
I'm lucky because he's very experienced as well. He suffered during the first 20 years in his career on a lot of mistakes that every entrepreneur do. So I'm lucky enough to have a fast track MBA into what to do and more importantly, not to do. Counter wisdom, there is a lot of there is a word woke that exists on the social values. There is, if I can use the word woke in the context of corporate bullshit and a lot of things and posts that are on LinkedIn that will tell you the theory about what it is to run a business. The truth is there is a lot of ugly truth about the reality of building a team and forming a company that is nowhere online and that only founders can tell you in between closed doors and tell you the harsh truth about what it takes. Yeah. That's what I get with my partner. And that's step number 1, 2, and 3. That's going to be that. After that, it's relating to my personality, but you have to be passionate. You have to want to learn. You have to not care about making mistakes, but just passion and belief. Passion and belief. That's it. Many people will tell you you're wrong, and sometimes you will be, but it doesn't matter. You have to trust your guts. Something that you have to listen to customer and user feedback because they are always right, even when they're wrong. That's for sure. But beyond that, guts. You have to learn how to trust your guts instinct and act quickly on it. A lot of the corporate jobs requires you to build consensus, to build a common denominator where there is a vanilla solution that becomes minimal in terms of risk, but zero market fit, where you have to rationalize every decision into 50 slides presentation with 20 Google Sheets or Word, Excel document to prove that you're right. This is to build consensus. This is slow. This is most of the time inaccurate and too late anyway, because it takes too much time. You have to learn how to trust your guts and stand by them and correct your course when the market and only the market tells you you're wrong. That is it. And that's not what you learn in corporate life. And so you have to behave differently, to become a different version of yourself. For me, I find that super exciting, liberating. Not as much scary as it is empowering and humbling.
Love it. I'm loving this bromance as well. I'm kind of I'm gonna have to gate crash your celebration. I feel like it sounds like it's going to be a good one. But I love what you shared there, because to your point, the lessons learned over life, they're tough lessons. And if you can partner with someone who's already learned them, you can fast track. And obviously from your background between Microsoft and Samsung and McKinsey, lots of great people. And as you mentioned, lots of great, I suppose, corporate lessons that you're bringing into entrepreneurship and ultimately fast tracking. And obviously the passion, I mean, you're French, so there's no doubt that passion comes part of the genetics, which is fabulous. Now, one thing to call out, and last question really is around spotlighting. So part of the thing we do on the podcast is always look at spotlighting female leaders around the world as well, because generally females are less visible for different reasons. There's less founders as well, so there's a factor there. But the vast majority of your team, and I've met, thankfully, a number of the team right now, are phenomenal female leaders. So give me some context and spotlight one or two for me so that we can just call out who is some of the other personalities that are on the Elfie team that are leading the charge here and making the most comprehensive solution in the world that I'm eager to get involved with at the time.
I will name quite a few. You're right. We do happen to have I think half of the company that is identified as a female. But let me make sure of one thing. I don't discriminate neither positively nor negatively based on the gender. The fact that we have 50% female in the company has 0.0 things to do with their gender. I don't care what is the gender you identify with. It's none of my business. Never be, will never be. Exactly.
Excellent.
It's very, very important. I don't want people to believe that they are a token that has been imposed by some whatever ratio that the latest guideline is. I don't care. You will be recruited, promoted, and fired based on performance, the best way I can, of course, on performance, but that does not involve in any shape or form. I don't care.
Yeah, brilliant.
Very important. We do have, and one of the very first employee, Ruby, who's now is in the UK. She's no longer with us, but she wanted to do a master. So I recommended Ruby was the first person to teach me a lot because I act as chief product officer. She teach me all what I know in design. Half of the Elfie application has been designed with my contribution. So Ruby was there at the beginning. Emily, who is now a global pharma partnership leader, was there in Brazil at the beginning and now in Europe. She covers all our pharma partnership, quite a senior role. She doesn't even have pharma background, but she has relentlessness as one of the, or resiliency as a skill set. She's hungry to learn. She covers more than that. She's also incubated part of our product and covers some of our marketing as well. And she had the time to bring to life two wonderful human beings in the process of growing with us from zero, no app at the time she joined. So that's to give you an example. Fantastic person, happens to be a woman, and that's great. We have also that joined us recently, head of our user growth, Z, based out of Singapore, global role, covering all user acquisition and retention. Fantastic person. I think she's joining us with probably around 17 years of experience. The working hours in our company, or at least the working hours are the official one, but people work long. Work very long. They know what it takes to be successful. And we work around the world. It's a global startup from day one. We almost have always someone working in the company around the clock, from people working in the Middle East, so not working on Fridays, but on Sundays. We have actually people, female leader of our operation in Egypt. Our global translator coordinating all the content in the Elfie app is a young lady, also Egyptian. She was recruited as a 1 week, 2 weeks translator and became head of content in Elfie. She happens to be female, very discreet and humble culturally in a country where potentially women are a little bit more discreet. She is stepping up. I'm pushing her to build her own self-confidence. It has been a journey, I believe, but I think that the company neither discriminate one way or the other, that's for sure. But we do happen that not bizarrely, the ratio of womankind and mankind is respected without positive or negative discrimination that I'm aware of, and I will ban it if I see it in any shape or form.
I love it, and this is where we want to get to, right? You hire the best person for the job, regardless. And that's really what business should be happening, and that's where it balances itself out. I absolutely am going to get Emily on a podcast. I know that she's a little bit camera shy at the moment, but as like most people listen in audio anyway, so she's definitely coming on. Now, to be fair, she's in Bordeaux, so I may have to go to Bordeaux for that one, just to have a glass of wine.
Go ahead. It's a lovely place.
It's a fabulous place. So yeah, I may have to go for that one. And likewise with Z in Singapore, another trip I may have to make in person. So if I've got good excuses to meet these amazing leaders around the world. This is a phenomenal company. So just to say, well done. I think it's obviously been a number of years coming to where it is. It is beautifully designed. So in terms of your product background, whatever Ruby taught you, she did well. It is really simple to use, I'm finding. And it is great. It's impactful. And I think, call to action for those listening, we need to have personalization, where data needs to be included in order for personalization of medications, as well as personalization of our journey, as well as just celebrating that we're doing good stuff, right? We're all being health conscious, so let's celebrate and get rewarded for that. So that instant gratification is something that I definitely crave and I'm enjoying getting every day. So call to action for those that are either healthy or not so healthy, and have conditions or not have conditions, who are planning for a stage of life change, or planning to have a different life that they're being linked into, be that with kids or not, and so on. So it's a great application. It's also a great, I think, space that we're in, and I'm loving the personalization and the aspect of healthcare and stepping up as health and lifestyle, and lifestyle being part of this is a huge factor, because that's a massive factor for me as well in relation to wellness. So again, just thank you. It's a pleasure meeting you. And I know we haven't met in person yet, but I'm going to hijack your bromance going on, whether it's in Vietnam or whether it's in Singapore in the next few months. I look forward to that. And thank you again. A pleasure having you on the podcast. We'll have to have more of the team on.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Grace. Have a super good day on your side. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening. You can connect the dots with others by sharing this podcast with colleagues and teammates. At wearethecollective.world, you can join a professional network, avail of professional development, and engage your support team. We collaborate on the shared pursuit for gender balance in health and business. Until next time, keep connecting the dots.